Hello, everyone. Micah Smith back here with another episode of Rebuild and Rise. And today, as always, I have a very special guest with me today. And his name is Jon Tallinger. Now, how we met is extremely unique. We met at an event and we started conversing over our affinity for someone whom I love to pieces. And he is a very well-known author and speaker, and I'm actually going to let him tell you a little bit about it. But we just shared this affinity, and we ended up just exchanging some words. And before we knew it, we were having a conversation, and then the follow-up took place very shortly thereafter. And after hearing this person's story, I knew this was someone that we had to get on the show. And so he kindly accepted and is willing to share his expertise with us today. And I actually am going to introduce Jon Tallinger to the show today. Jon, welcome. It is so amazing to have you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Micah. I'm so excited to be here and super excited to share some time with you.
Absolutely. So it was really fun because when we met, we were at the TAG event and you and I were front and center for one of our favorite speakers, authors. And I actually wanted to ask you, and I wanted the rest of the show to hear it, but I wanted to talk about what's your personal draw to one of our favorite authors and speakers?
Yes. So Tim Grover, probably a lot of you, I have a stack of actual physical books over here. Most of them that are in my office, I'll find a way to either read once a year again, if I like it, or I'll do the audiobooks again. But Tim Grover is amazing. So he was essentially Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade's. He was their strength and conditioning coach, but he was really kind of like their life coach, much more than that. And his book, Relentless, to me, he talks about the different type of high performers. And then he talks about the guys that he worked with, the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants of the world, how they were just at a different level in terms of everything, in terms of their execution, and really how he helped prepare them that when they got into a game situation, it was just second nature for them to go and expect success, expect to dominate. So, meeting him and listening to him, I was actually the MC for this event that we were at. And so I was backstage, and I don't do that very often. So it was a bit of a departure for me. I had to be much more organized than usual. But so it was backstage talking with him for a little bit and listening to him tell some pretty cool stories. And then as soon as we announced him and put him on the stage, I kind of scurried around and got to the front row and kind of saddled up next to Micah, and I'm like, sorry, do you mind if I sit here? So we were like a couple of nerds in the front row, all the cool tidbits that he shared.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, so I'm going to jump into who you are. So you are now the Chief Growth Officer, and your company is Class Valuation. And so to those people who are not familiar with Class Valuation, can you please tell them what it is you do?
Yeah. So we are in the appraisal business. In fact, we were Class Appraisal originally, but as the kind of our scope of what we do, our services kind of expanded, we switched it to valuation. But so we are the largest appraisal management company in the country. We've been in business since 2009, and it's been a heck of a road. So we started in an office about the size of this one. So now we have about 750 employees across the country, and we do anywhere from 50 to 60,000 appraisals every month. So it's a busy factory over here of operations and growth. And it's been a wild ride, but have enjoyed every step along the way, and many more twists and turns than I ever would have dreamed of, 16, 17 years ago.
I can only imagine. And again, that was one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on the show is you had told me you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the very first employee that they hired, correct?
Yeah, I was the first employee. We started working sort of with somewhat of a captive company at the time, United Wholesale, and we were brand new, and United Wholesale was growing, but they were probably the 75th largest wholesale lender in the country. And now they've been, the number one largest wholesale lender for the last 5-6 years or so. But at the time we were very small and had to figure everything out sort of on the fly. Didn't have a ton of guidance, but we figured it out and grew along the way. And We've sold to private equity a few times in the last, once in 2018, once in 2021. So we've grown like quite crazy. We've done 21 acquisitions just in the last 3 years. So acquired a lot of M&A, acquired a lot of our smaller competitors, data companies, tech companies, and we've, continued to try and sort of lead the charge in bringing appraisals in the modern world. It's still a pretty antiquated space. And we know that appraisal is just kind of one piece of the mortgage process, but usually it's a pretty important piece. A lot of times it's the only person in the mortgage transaction these days that the homeowner meets face to face. A lot of times it's just the appraiser because so many apps are done over the phone. And it's also one of the few things that they maybe have to pay out of pocket for. And it's also a lot of times that whether that loan's going to happen is sort of hinging on whether that appraisal hits a certain value or not. So again, it's a small piece of the process, but it's an important one. And it's no 2 days are the same around here. We deal with all sorts of great successes and all sorts of fun fires, as you can imagine, trying to help our clients get their get their loans to close. So it's wild.
That's awesome. I love that. So prior to you being in the position you're in, obviously it took you many, many years to get there, but who were you prior to, right, being the CGO, the Chief Growth Officer? What were you made of?
Yeah, it seemed like it blended so quickly. I actually started appraising by accident when I was 18. I was a senior in high school, and my brother-in-law owned this appraisal company, and I think my mom asked him at one of the family dinners, like, "Hey, Darton, John could use a job. Why don't you hire him?" And so I went to work for him when I was 18 and sort of learned that business. Knew nothing about it at the time, got to know it. And I went off to Michigan State for college. And every summer I'd come home and log my hours at the appraisal company. So when I graduated in 2002, I had my degree and I had my appraisal license and kind of decided to go that appraisal path, which was fun, and it allowed me to have a little more control over my life and a little bit more control over my schedule, and could do well and make pretty good money. And it's definitely interesting. I mean, being out, you think all the time, like you see people's houses on TV and you meet people out and about, or you meet people at work, but actually stepping inside their house is kind of a wild thing when you think about it. You see some unique stuff, but usually it's a good experience. That was fun being out in the field. I did that for years. And right about the time, I got married, and right about the time we were starting a family, kind of made this leap to help start this company. So it was a pretty big, departure at the time. Kind of had to be talked into it because I kind of thought, hey, I'm working for myself. This isn't so bad. This is pretty good. I don't really want to go sit at a desk every day, and took that leap, and it's been anything but that. And so kind of helped to run the company the first, 3-4 years. And once we got to a certain size, I just realized that my skill set was far better client facing, and going out and not even so much selling, because I don't think of it as selling. I just think of it as going out and building relationships. And so that's one thing that it just kind of fits my personality well. Get out and make a lot of friends, get to know people, help match make. As a result, been able to do some good things and build, one heck of a company.
Yeah, you're that guy. I mean, I knew that from like the moment we started talking. I was like, yep, this is a relationship person. I mean, you are just about as just warm and kind and authentic as they come. And I feel like for you, it's just like you like people. And it makes sense that you're in the position that you are. And I love that you think of it like it's not selling, right? It's just that consultative, like, hey, let's just put people together where they belong and where the most magic can happen. And I feel like it's very, very, very natural for you. So it makes sense that you're in the position that you're in. So I want to ask you, so when you were a little kid, I want to ask about what the younger version of you believed about yourself that turned out to be wrong.
There's not that many things about myself that turned out to be wrong. More of them turned out to be right, which was somewhat surprising. I always knew that I was going to find a way to do something that I really enjoyed. Now, I guess where I was wrong was never expected it to be in the mortgage world, in the appraisal world. I kind of expected to have somehow a more adventurous career path. I kind of knew in my mind, like, I don't want to do anything corporate. I don't want to be kind of anchored to a desk. And not to say that I am, but I thought I'd have some wild adventurous, whether I'm going to be a fighter pilot, whether I'm going to be something fun and wild. Appraisals never crossed my mind. But I did know that I would, from a young age, I did know that my mindset would always be that I'm going to enjoy every single day. I'm going to have a short memory when it comes to, failures and unfortunate things that happen. And I'm going to have a long memory when it comes to, really enjoying the time with the people that I love and, being around people that really make me better and enjoy every day. So those things that I always knew as a kid, I've kind of been able to stick to and keep those things. And yeah, but life, I don't think life ever turns out exactly how you want it to. But when you think back on it, you're like, well, I don't know if I would have done it that much differently. I kind of like the way things have turned out. So unique
That's
perspective, I guess.
fantastic. No, I love that. It's fantastic. I mean, you got to take it and run with it and make it your own. So I love that. And I mean, I think that's hard for a lot of people. At least I know for myself personally, I feel like a lot of people tend to dwell on past mistakes and don't focus as much on their successes. And I mean, I try to pour through about a book a week. And right now I'm reading a great one. It's John Gordon's newest one. And he does talk about the importance of, like, one thing he does every single day at the end of the day with his children and with himself is he's like, tell me about your successes for the day. And when you focus on the successes, right, focusing on success begets more success. And now we're kind of talking about like the reticular activating system here, which, Tony Robbins talks a lot about that stuff. But ultimately, I mean, that's what it is, right? If you focus more on the successes, you're bound to have more successes. So having that unique mindset, so let me ask you, so did anybody coach you on that, or was that just innate?
I think probably some coaching, probably some mentors, some people I met along the way, probably some
Yeah.
family, and I think probably some life experience as well. I think everyone
Yeah.
goes through, some, whether they realize it at the time or not, people go through some traumatic things and they help to shape them for better or for
Hmm.
worse. And I've always been a glass half full type of person, no
Yeah.
matter what. I just am. I can find positivity anywhere. I just need an ounce of it. I need a little bit because there's just by nature. I mean, some of the people I look up to the most and some of the most successful people I know, fortunately, they're really pessimistic sometimes, which is it's hard to be around. So, I try to leave an impact, I try to leave a mark, and I try to, especially, I mean, when we have everyone in the office here, I even liked it when we were a smaller company because I could see and kind of read people's faces on the floor and see them interacting with customers. And if they're having a bad day, being able to try to cheer people up, to get a smile out of people, to try and get them to, whatever's kind of ailing them, it just kind of seemed to be my calling a little bit.
That's really cool. I love that. Ed always says that your biography is not your destiny. And so, what part of your biography almost became your ceiling?
I never thought when we started this company, you just don't really think about, how you're going to be at the same company your whole life, or you're going to bounce from do to this, go from this place to this place. A lot of times you have successes somewhere and it leads you to a new opportunity to do something else, to do something more that you want to do. And I've always felt like I've had unfinished business here. It's still even, I have shares in the company. I have, skin in the game, but it still feels like my baby. And it still feels like we're just scratching the surface of where we're going. In my adult life, I haven't known having to go interview and having to go, do something else. And who knows, at some point I probably will. But, for years, I really thought our ceiling, just in terms of growing this company, I thought our ceiling was going to be here. And I learned pretty quickly, like once you reach those goals and those things that you set out, you got to set new targets. You got to set new goals. And we're at a spot now where I never thought we'd be. And it certainly hasn't been easy. As you grow and as you get to a certain size and scale, you run into all sorts of new challenges. Some people that were great when you were a certain size, you sort of outgrow them. And I think, when you get larger, and I think, personally, I've had to adapt as well as we've grown. We did a lot of broker, wholesale, focus work early on, and we still do, but we've gotten into the bank space and the credit union space and the private money space. Really had to learn so much more and really understand like what client behavior looks like, how to really be the chameleon as a vendor, as a service provider. We haven't had the luxury of being able to say, hey, this is the way we do it, and you got to take it. If a client wants them, and we have to be able to mold to what's going to work best for them. And really kind of getting back to, where I met you was sort of at a mortgage broker wholesale event. Mortgage brokers are absolutely gaining market share at a rapid pace. And a lot of them are even taking on more responsibility and going correspondent. And it can't be a one size fits all model. We can't dictate to them. Like, we have to figure out what that client wants and absolutely knock it out of the park for them if we want to earn their business, or else someone else will be knocking on the door.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, very well put. And, I actually want to go back to what you were talking about earlier, which is, right. So you were in the middle of having a family, and I looked at your Instagram and I saw you have 3 girls. You've been happily married for quite some time. So, I mean, I feel like, wow, like what a transition, right? So you took a serious bet. So I want to ask you, what does someone, and again, you already alluded to the fact that you're extremely optimistic, but what does someone have to believe about themselves to be able to take that kind of, I guess, leap of faith, if you will?
Well, I mean, you know, first of all, you have to believe in like it's so strange because I think we all still have friends who don't have kids or get to a certain age. Something definitely shifted. I mean, I think there was a point where, and this might not be answering your question exactly, but there was a point where um, you know you're building and you're saving money, and then all of a sudden you have kids, and everything changes. Everything completely goes out the window. Did I ever think that I was going to have 3 girls? No. I think every man at some point that has kids, thinks in their mind, oh, I can't wait to have a son.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I tried 3 times to have a son. I failed each time. I'll tell you what, being a girl dad is the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Growing up, I had a brother. I didn't have any sisters, and it's a completely new challenge. But as soon as as soon as Ava, our first child, was born, everything changes in terms of where your priorities are. You don't
Yeah.
worry about saving for this thing or that. It's like this child here is my life, and I'll absolutely give everything in the world for them. And then watching 2 more unique individuals, Cameron and Izzy, come along, and that me and my wife created it. It's the most special thing in the world. And so more so than anything else, it's just wanting to, teach, raise them the right way and leave a good legacy for them and make sure that they got to not only enjoy the things that I got to enjoy in life, but make it so that they can be in a much better spot than maybe I was and my wife were. So it's been like that's the biggest change that I never expected. I never expected having kids and being, working to be the best parent possible to be this big of a part of my life. But that's what we're here for. We're here for our families, and we're here to, to leave things amazing for them.
Absolutely. So as you were building this amazing organization, was there a moment where you almost just gave up and gave in and threw in the towel, and you're just like, this is too much, I'm putting in too much time, or this is too hard? Or was that ever a thought in your mind?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, there are some successful people that are in the sales world that can do everything over the phone and not have to travel much. For me, that just doesn't work. I would tell you that I've never made a significant deal or significant sale over the phone ever. And pretty much every important client that we've ever won, somehow or another, it's been face to face. You can't shake a hand over the phone. It really feels like when you meet and get to spend some time with a person, it's almost like you create some accountability there,
Sure.
in terms of, hey, like when that next time that person calls and they're a client of ours, they're a business partner of ours, I feel like there's an extra amount of accountability there.
Hmm.
So in order to really build this business and to be able to grow, I had to travel a lot. And I think that was really tough. And looking back, of all things that I would change, I probably would have found a way to balance that better, or try to find ways to make life for my wife easier at home while I was traveling, or spread those trips out a little bit more. Because I think there were some times where it just caused a lot of friction. It just made it very, very difficult. And I don't think I really realized at that time how much responsibility it is, raising young children all at a young age. They're 15, 13, and 9 now. But, many of
Wow.
those years when they were growing up, and I was traveling and gone a lot, I think it was certainly difficult, and I probably underappreciated or underestimated like what impact that was having at home.
Absolutely. It's John Gordon talks about it all the time. And he recently just talked about just the travel aspect, because he traveled a lot for work. And he recently wrote in his book, he had asked his girls, he's like, hey, did I travel too much when you were younger? And they were like, what? They're like, we don't even really remember you traveling,
Mhm.
because the big thing he focuses on is, he tells people who are building a thing, is when you're here, be here. When you're
Yeah.
here, you're here. So when you're home, you're with your kids. And so when he's with his kids, right, he's at their games, he's present, there's no phones, it's just his kids. And when
Yeah.
he's traveling for work, it's just about his work. And so he said, because he was so present when he was home, his kids never felt like they missed out on anything. So I think to those people who are listening, that was one thing too, one of my really good friends had said, and she's like, it's not really about, splitting up your time. It's just that when you are somewhere, you're 100% present, giving that person your all. And I feel like in the world that we live in today, I just feel like it's so hard for people to be present because we have technology connected to us 24/7. And so I think that was really well said. And that you kind of made a very easy thing for me to springboard off of. So I really
No,
appreciate
it's
you sharing that.
it's amazing. I couldn't agree more with you. I found myself, I can get distracted very easily by a lot of things, but time with my kids, and I don't sit and kind of think about, oh, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done this. There's always opportunity to do more. I'm very intentional with the time that I spend with them. And then especially having
Yeah.
three girls kind of spread out in age a
Yeah.
little bit, trying to really not just treat them as my three kids, treating them as having very individual relationships with each of them, and little inside jokes and little fun things that we do. And, Izzy goes with me and runs errands all the time. Cameron goes and hits golf balls with me. Like, we find our
Oh, that's
favorite things that
awesome.
we do. Ava, my oldest, is learning to drive now, and she's actually doing pretty good at it. And, so just like really trying to have that impact, because not only am I trying to have a big impact on them, they have a huge impact on me. I mean, the things I'm learning from these
Yeah.
kids now it's amazing. It's beautiful. And I'm
Mm.
so proud of them. It's people say it all the time. Of course, you're proud of your kids, but watching them, little struggles they go through and things they overcome and little accomplishments they have, and knowing that that's a person that, helped create is really powerful.
That's so cool. So the chief growth officer title. So I want to go into that because I want to ask you, at what point in your career, how far along were you into your career when you officially gained that title? And was this something that was given to you, or was this something that you took?
It's a great question. I think for years I was maybe like VP of sales or something like
Mhm.
that. And a lot of those titles internally might not mean as much. Externally, in a sales world, they might be more important. But I really do feel like I wasn't given it. I was given the opportunity to help choose it, but I certainly earned it. I think, as we grew as a company, we didn't spend for many, many years, we didn't spend a lot of money, building, like, giving the sales team proper tools or building out a massive sales team. So much of it was organic. So much of it was word of mouth. And so much of it was just finding, really quality over quantity, good people that
Yeah.
help to represent our organization. But I was able to go and win some really, really big accounts that helped to change the face of how our company kind of change our future for the better. So I kind of earned that title, but it took about 7, 8 years before I had that title. It was about half my tenure ago here, and I'm proud of it. It's taken on a life of its own, because it went from just going, hey, go win more clients, to we need to grow this segment, we need to go focus on this segment, we need to go and recapture these brokers that used to work with us that maybe don't anymore. As we grow, we need to look at acquisition opportunities. We need to look at other companies that we want to go acquire. So, JT, we need you to go focus on that and go spend 20% of your time looking for new opportunities for us to make acquisitions that will be a good fit for us. So it's been spreading our brand, sharing what we're doing, sharing what's new in the industry. It is changing rapidly. So, yeah, it does feel like it was earned, and it took a while to get there, but I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of where we're at. So, but again, the story's not done. There's a long time left and a lot of mountains to climb here still.
I love that. So do you feel, because obviously we talked a lot about, I mean, you talk a lot about being a connector. Do you feel like this is a skill you have or more of a calling?
Wow. Well, it definitely feels like a calling, because that's what, I think that you really enjoy what you're doing when the money becomes, in a lot of ways, secondary. Of course, like
Sure.
in any aspect of this world, if you're a mortgage, if you're a AE at a lender, or you're a loan originator, the revenue that you get from closing your deals, closing your transactions, obviously, like, that's sort of what we're in this for. But to me, so much of it is it's like the thrill of that hunt. It's the sense of accomplishment. I really, really enjoy that aspect of it, and I think that to really be successful in the sales world, you have to be competitive by nature. I mean, there's nothing worse than seeing, your competitor, down the road or across the country, that's just getting leaps and bounds and making big things happen, if you're not keeping pace or if you're not counterpunching, it could be easily demoralizing. So, you like to see other people do well, but at the same time, you want to go outperform them and beat them. I do feel like it's a skill that I had some natural ability with, but I also think that I've had to develop and work at it a little bit, especially some of the technical side, because it's not always the same audience. I mean, sometimes I'll be speaking with, an executive that leads sales. Sometimes it's the compliance team. So it's not always the same conversations you're having. A lot of times it's a totally different audience who you may not click with as much right away, and you kind of have to work to make that happen. So, but overall, it certainly feels like a calling, and I do enjoy it, and I love it, and the relationships that it's helped me to make, and the connections that I've been able to make through it have been really fun.
That's awesome. What do you think your family sees that the industry doesn't?
They get to see. I mean, part of my goal is for my kids is to be the funniest person in the world. I just want to make them laugh all the time, and I'm pretty good at it. And I even get some laughs out of my wife once in a while. But they get to see a lot of the lighthearted side of me. And I think over time, outwardly in the industry, I've been able to let my guard down a little bit more, kind of shifting it away from being, too overly serious to being a little bit more lighthearted. But they definitely get to see me with all the guards down and really just kind of being myself and trying to make them smile and laugh every day.
I love that. So let's say that everything was to get stripped away tomorrow, the title, the company, the contracts, what would be left? Who would you still be?
So the beauty there is that unintentionally, all these years building all these relationships, I have so many close friends that I can count on, that I can rely on. I think for years, I think no matter what line of work you're in, if you're successful, if you're growing, if you're building, I think everyone has that fear of, and you probably had the same fear when you were working for someone else as opposed to working for yourself, that, oh man, if something happened, the company folded, I got fired, something happened tomorrow, and what would I do? And I think everyone kind of worries about that. And I did for years, and maybe it's growth and maturation and getting older, but I don't worry about that anymore. I think, man, I could have nothing tomorrow. And with just the relationships that I've built and some of the knowledge base that I have, that I'd be able to, find something or turn something around pretty quickly that I really enjoy doing. I think there's other parts of the industry that I haven't been able to touch. I have been kind of stuck in this no fun little appraisal world for a while. So there's probably some other sides of the industry I'd probably find to try and to have an impact on.
Very cool. So I know you said we've barely scratched the surface, still building, have no idea what's next. But one of the big things that I talk about with the other entrepreneurs in my world and the other people just building really neat things, we talk about legacy. And I think legacy is super important. So for you, what do you want your legacy to be? Not professionally, but as a human being?
I think about it all the time, and I think this evolves. Like, this is the kind of answer that evolves every 5 years. When I'm dead and gone one day, I would love for my tombstone to say that, Jon was an amazing father. I think that's one of the most important things in the world to be. But as time goes on, I realize I think sometimes marriage is tough. Growing a family, building a family is tough. It's evolving towards Jon was a great father and a great husband, and a great friend. I mean, those are things. Being a great partner, being a great spouse, especially when you have a lot of focus on the kids and what they're doing. Being a really, really good, understanding and helpful spouse, who's truly a team player there, it's a difficult thing to do. And some people have to work at it, especially as time goes on and you get new challenges with the kids and outside factors. So I think, being a good, loving, present, family man and friend, I think is what's really important to me in my legacy.
I love that. I really love that so much. So something that was big on my heart I wanted to ask you about today is I wanted you to talk to the person who is struggling to really see success in their career. And I want you to talk to that person because what I'm seeing, and I don't think it's a generational thing, I think it's just people in general. I feel like a lot of people struggle to commit for long periods of time. And I feel like it's getting harder and harder to commit for long periods of time because our society is ultimately evolving and changing. And we're more of a microwave society than ever just because of technology and what it's become.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind I would think of is if it doesn't fit, don't force it. Whether that's a relationship, whether you're dating someone, and hey, like in a lot of ways, we're attracted, but we're not really getting it all, hitting it off, and we argue sometimes. If it's not a fit, there's 5-6 billion other people out there. If you're at a job, if you're in a position or a role that you just don't really enjoy, or you're not really making an impact, or you don't feel fulfillment, don't be afraid to move. Go find what you enjoy doing, or go find where it's a good fit for you. I've got, a bunch of success stories of people that we've had here that were in different departments. Like one girl in particular I can think of who was, she was on the assigning team for a little bit, and she was okay. She was in client services. She was okay, but she wasn't that happy. And then we got her into the quality control team, and she loved it. And she really, like, it was the perfect fit for her. But it's like she tried two different, it was like the third try that actually got her to where, and she quickly rose and came, got promoted a few times and really did a great job, but really found more so than that, she really enjoyed what she was doing. And I think that so often people just kind of stay where it's comfortable for them. They don't really step outside their comfort zone in so many things in life, whether it's, fitness, it's your job, it's your relationship, any number of these things. It's your outlook on life. I mean, those things, if you're not happy, do something about it. There's so many things that we can't control, but there's so many things that we can control. And that's what drives me nuts, about a lot of people, that they just decide to just stay content. I love seeing younger people in these younger generations taking a leap, betting on themselves, not being afraid, like having the courage to go and launch something new, or start a new company, or try this, or follow their path, or follow what they really like doing. So, I mean, to me, it's so much of it is like, it's not working, you don't enjoy it, and it's not fitting. Don't stay there. Don't waste your time. If you get on the wrong subway, like if you get on the express, if you're in Midtown, you get on the express train and you're by mistake and you're halfway up to Harlem, like, get off as soon as you can, because the road back it's going to be longer the longer you stay on it. Probably the best advice I can give there.
I love it. So listen, if today's episode helped you, please share it, text it to someone, share it with someone, tag me, because there is someone, and you know who they are, in your circle that needs to hear this, and it's going to help them. So with that being said, you can find me, of course, at mikeabigail.com, Fit Credit Doctor, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Jon, thank you so much for what you are building, and thank you so much for being on Rebuild and Rise.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for inspiring me. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit like and subscribe. And if there's someone you know that this would help, please share this with them. If you are looking to fix and repair your credit, you can find us at www.mikeabigail.com. And if you're looking for more personal stories on myself, you can find me at Fit Credit Doctor. Thanks again for joining, and God bless.